Businesses who are members of businesses for social responsibility or the social venture network are internalizing costs on a voluntary basis and therefore raising their costs of doing business. But their competitors are not required to. When cattle ranchers clear rainforests to raise beef to sell to fast food chains that make hamburgers to sell to Americans, who have the highest rate of heart disease in the world, we can say easily that business is no longer developing the world. We have become its predator. Trees are being saved because of the Kindle. The financial capital is being concentrated by corporations, institutional investors, and even our pension funds, and being reinvested in companies that repeat this process because it provides the highest return on that financial capital. Somewhere along the way to free market capitalism, the United States became the most wasteful society on the planet. Commercial institutions, proud of their achievements, do not see that healthy living systems, clean air and water, healthy soil, stable climates are integral to a functioning economy. As our living systems deteriorate, traditional forecasting and business economics become the equivalent of house rules on a sinking cruise ship. Throughout the industrial era, economists considered manufactured capital, money, factories, etc., the principal factor in industrial production, and perceived natural capital as a marginal contributor. The exclusion of natural capital from balance sheets was an understandable omission. There was so much of it, it didn't seem worth counting. Money and prices in markets don't give us exact information about how much our suburbs, freeways, and spandex cost. Instead, everything else is giving us accurate information. Our beleaguered air and watersheds, our overworked soils, our decimated inner cities, all of these provide information our prices should be giving us but do not. For the developed world, there is a choice to be made to promote economic policies that despoil indigenous lands or to support cultures and the remaining biological sanctuaries. Hindered by asthma since I was 6 weeks old, I had begun experimenting with my diet and discovered a disquieting correlation. When I stopped eating the normal American diet of sugar, fats, alcohol, chemicals, and additives, I felt better. I could breathe freely. When I tried to sneak in a hamburger and a Coke, my body rebelled. The self-owned and operated business is the freest life in the world. Trees are being saved because of the Kindle. Class of 2009, you are going to have to figure out what it means to be a human being on Earth at a time when every living system is declining, and the rate of decline is accelerating. Kind of a mind-boggling situation, but not one peer-reviewed paper published in the last 30 years can refute that statement. Enslaving each other was what human beings had done for ages, and the abolitionist movement was greeted with incredulity. Conservative spokesmen ridiculed the abolitionists as liberals, progressives, do-gooders, meddlers, and activists. You can print money to bail out a bank, but you can't print life to bail out a planet. When you pollute a river, it's a supreme injustice to those who are downstream and those who live in the river who are not human beings. Yes, population is a huge problem. Birth rates are too high, and in order to take care of the environment, we have to make sure that every child that comes here, that arrives, knows that he or she is welcome, is going to be cared for and honored. When cattle ranchers clear rainforests to raise beef to sell to fast food chains that make hamburgers to sell to Americans, who have the highest rate of heart disease in the world, we can say easily that business is no longer developing the world. We have become its predator. when cattle ranchers clear rain forests to raise beef to sell to fast food chains that make hamburgers to sell to Americans, who have the highest rate of heart disease in the world, we can say easily that business is no longer developing the world. We have become its predator. I doubt very much that the chief executives of any of the Fortune 500 corporations can name 5 edible plants, 5 native grasses, or 5 migratory birds within walking distance of their homes, or name the soil series upon which their house sits. And I would contend that if you don't know where you are in fact nowhere at all. We have to ask ourselves, what kind of world is it where a baby food executive substitutes artificial flavoring and sugar for apple juice? What kind of businesses have we created when we even lie to infants? There is no polite way to say that business is destroying the world. We have the capacity to create a remarkably different economy, one that can restore ecosystems and protect the environment while bringing forth innovation, prosperity, meaningful work, and true security. Business is destroying the world with flair, expertise, and panache. Gratitude is the fairest blossom which springs from the soul. It's easier to go down a hill than up it, but the view is much better at the top. The mother's heart is the child's schoolroom. A person without a sense of humor is like a wagon without springs. It's jolted by every pebble on the road. Every charitable act is a stepping stone toward heaven. The art of being happy lies in the power of extracting happiness from common things. We never know the love of a parent till we become parents ourselves. Greatness lies not in being strong, but in the right using of strength, and strength is not used rightly when it serves only to carry a man above his fellows for his own solitary glory. He is the greatest, whose strength carries up the most hearts by the attraction of his own. Every tomorrow has 2 handles. We can take hold of it with the handle of anxiety or the handle of faith. Hold yourself responsible for a higher standard than anybody expects of you. Never excuse yourself. A library is not a luxury, but one of the necessities of life. Flowers are the sweetest things God ever made and forgot to put a soul into. I can forgive, but I cannot forget is only another way of saying, I will not forgive. Forgiveness ought to be like a canceled note, torn in two, and burned up so that it never can be shown against one. We should not judge people by their peak of excellence, but by the distance they have traveled from the point where they started. Young love is a flame, very pretty, often very hot and fierce, but still only light and flickering. The love of the older and disciplined heart is as coals, deep burning, unquenchable. Every artist dips his brush in his own soul and paints his own nature into his pictures. The babe at first feeds upon the mother's bosom, but it is always on her heart. Our best successes often come after our greatest disappointments. There is no friendship, no love, like that of the parent for the child. A proud man is seldom a grateful man, for he never thinks he gets as much as he deserves. Laughter is day, and sobriety is night. A smile is the twilight that hovers gently between both. More bewitching than either, to array a man's will against his sickness is the supreme art of medicine. In this world, full often, our joys are only the tender shadows which our sorrows cast. The sun does not shine for a few trees and flowers, but for the wide world's joy. Every man should keep a fair-sized cemetery in which to bury the faults of his friends.